Here we've got Stafford Masie coming up here. We all know who Stafford is. We should know who Stafford is. Those of us who are South African who've watched the business news talks online, we've seen Stafford orange pull some of the biggest names in business in South Africa. So we're very happy to have Stafford here and very grateful for his time. Please give a warm welcome to Stafford, who's going to talk to us about ABC and Bitmark and everything else.
Can I take that mic? I think this one. Let me take. Okay, there we go. Okay, awesome. Thank you. The last time I was here, I'm actually going to do a recap of some of the things we said the last time because when I got up on stage last time, remember I was putting up all the challenges that we were having in South Africa. And this morning, some exciting news happened, and I think we've done a lot since the last time. I'm seeing some familiar faces. Hi, everyone. So last time we were here, we spoke about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Remember, we mentioned that. It was in the news. We made noise about it, etc. And we kind of had some rationale around it. IFWG, I put it up on stage last time and I showed there was a clause. Remember the Intergovernmental FinTech Working Group had actually published out guidelines that stopped companies on the JSE issuing out securities that were backed with anything crypto related, right? There was like it was outlawed. That was the last time I was here. There were no tools really that the regulators were using. We had a lot of regulation that was kind of open and friendly in South Africa and lots of changes, but the big challenge was no tools. Right? And that's a big challenge with our regulators. So as much as we want to be free and as much as we want this like anarchist derivative, the point is that, oh, must I speak closer to the mic? The point is that a lot of regulators, when they publish out these laws and things, then they actually need tools and services to manage this. And if they mature our industry, then Bitcoin adoption will flourish. The challenge that we have with Bitcoin adoption right now in the country is regulation, and this will grow up. We spoke about Bitcoin mining. I remember Karel de Jager got up and he actually spoke with me last time. And he has that thesis where he got up and he said if Eskom had mined Bitcoin from, I think, 2020 to 2025, January, they would have paid off their debt and they would have had about $200 million worth of surplus. And we proved that scientifically if they had listened, right? That happened. And there was no Bitcoin treasury company in Africa. Well, let's start from the top. So where are we right now? This didn't happen, but that's okay. I'm speaking a lot. So in my individual capacity, I engage with the South African Reserve Bank a lot about not crypto, Bitcoin. And this is a big challenge. The biggest challenge that we have in South Africa right now is that we've got crypto regulations. And what we need to do is articulate why Bitcoin is not part of that story, that it's actually separate. And this is an ongoing educational exercise and engagement. I love what the Free Market Foundation published this week. Thank you for putting that out. It was Bitcoin. You made it very clear. It's not crypto, it's Bitcoin. And I think that's so important because you cannot regulate properly if you don't differentiate between shitcoinery and the immaculate conception, right? You just can't. There is only one digital commodity. There's only one asset without an issuer. That's digital in the world today, and that's Bitcoin. And if you don't see it that way, then you really struggle with regulation because then you allow the gates to open up. So example, when we engaged IFWG, Warren Wheatley's in the room here, Karel's in the room, Vian's in the room. These are people that have worked jointly with me to engage the JSE, FISCA, SARB, IFWG, etc. And what we managed to do is actually get this changed. So now companies on the JSE can actually issue out securities backed by crypto. But here's the challenge, and this is where the hand clapping is to pause. The challenge is they took the clause away, and now it's crypto. And that's not what I wanted. What I wanted the clause to change to was that if you issued out a security and it was backed by Bitcoin, then that's okay. So we're still struggling in South Africa differentiating between crypto and Bitcoin. And it's still a work in progress. It still requires a lot of engagement, and this is what I do in my individual capacity. And I know there's about 3 or 4 other people in the audience here that also do it in your individual capacities. And we have to continually do this. Now, why do we need to bring the regulators along? Because that's how we get Bitcoin to be adopted. Whether you like it or not, you need regulation that's friendly, that's intelligent, that's smart. And we need to continue leaning in that direction. That's what we're doing. And we've won. So that changed, and that led to this. So today I'm going to be talking about a company called Africa Bitcoin Corporation. We launched it last year. We took a company called Altface Capital, right? I was the chairman of that company, and we converted that company. We metamorphosized that company into a private credit business galvanized with the Bitcoin on its balance sheet, and it's called the Africa Bitcoin Corporation. Now, what's important about that company isn't the fact that we managed to change the IFWG's recommended guidelines, we managed to engage with the JSE. And I want to thank people like Warren Wheatley, CEO of Altwest Capital, Vihan, Carl. These are people that have gone into the JSE, sat down with the JSE, not got paid for this, to ensure that this could happen. To give the JSE peace of mind that what Stafford was saying, or what Warren was saying, whoever was saying, was actually the truth. Right? And so what we've managed to do, which I think is amazing, we've managed to list the first Bitcoin treasury company in Africa last year. And I think that's a major, major milestone for our industry. Right? So we went from, you cannot ever do it, they took the clause away, and now we have our first Africa Bitcoin treasury company. And it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. I changed from being an executive chairman. I'm a chairman. I'm now an executive chairman, and I'm director of the Bitcoin strategy. But it's fun being engaged on an operational level to actually get a Bitcoin treasury company off its feet, you know, kind of walking and then running. It's difficult. It's not easy. And we'll unpack a little bit of that in a second. But just congratulations to the ABC team. First in Africa, we're on the map. Yes, we only have 3-point-something Bitcoin in our treasury. And I know a lot of people laugh at that. But it's a lot for a Bitcoin treasury company, number one. Number two, to get one Bitcoin into a treasury company listed on the JSE, I'm going to write the book about that. In fact, Warren and I should sit down and write the book about that. It's tough. It's tough to take a company that's JSE regulated, to take a regulator on the journey of metamorphosizing your board, changing out your auditors. We used to have auditors. We've swapped over to Stafford Masie because Stafford Masie, in my honest opinion, are the only people. If you're going to do any crypto auditing and governance checks, they're the only company, in my opinion, because they've got the skill sets and the competency inside, right? If it wasn't for one gentleman in here, and I'll call him out, if it wasn't for Vihan, I don't know if we'll be able to do this with the JSE, especially the novelty of some of the things that we're doing. Because we're not just taking Bitcoin and shoving it on the balance sheet and then waiting for the price to go up, like every other Bitcoin treasury company out there. There are also shit Bitcoin treasury companies, just like there are shit coins, right? There's people that just hoard Bitcoin, and they're just waiting for the price to go up. Ours is a little bit different, right? We're doing an impact story around it. We believe with our Bitcoin, we can actually have an impact, not on BTC yield only, but on human yield. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So that's really, really cool. So that company's come about, but it's tough, guys. It's not easy. It's regulation. And so if you try to do things with your Bitcoin, then you need people like Stafford Masie in the room to oversee you, to report back on you, etc. To change your board into folks that have the competency from an audit and risk perspective to understand what you're doing. To buy your first Bitcoin in a custody manner that's truly secure, cold storage, multi-jurisdictional, internet. You want to go through that journey? That's why we've only got 3.7 Bitcoin. And so, but what we've done is we built the substrate. So from here, I'm very excited about 2026. Okay, I have to be careful. It's a publicly traded company. I'm not encouraging you. I'm not doing anything forward-looking. I'm just very excited about where we are. So that's been huge. Tools for regulators. I think Carl is speaking today. Silver Sixpence, incredible company. Definitely one of the top companies in the world when it comes to reporting and analysis of crypto, multi-blockchains, multi-wallets, etc. They've built out an incredible tool set. That tool set is now being adopted by the South African Reserve Bank, and that's a good thing. Because now they have the ability to look in, and they need to have the ability to look in. And we need banks to have the ability to look into CASPs. They need to be able to see you, and that's necessary. There's all this like anarchists, like no one should see what I have. And no, that's not the real world. Okay, the real world is not ultimate, complete privacy, and no one can see anything that you ever. It doesn't work like that in the real world. You want that, and you'll have 10 people owning Bitcoin. You want 10 million people owning Bitcoin in South Africa? You've got to have the regulators understand how to manage it, operate it, etc. And it's not just engaging them from an educational perspective. What I love about Silver Sixpence is they're enabling the regulators to actually enforce the rules. And that's a good thing. I know some of you in the room here, I'm looking at some of you. I've actually taken you into the South African Reserve Bank. And I think some of you will nod and understand the reason I took you there is so the South African Reserve Bank folks, specific departments inside there, can see what you're doing. So you can explain to them what you're doing. Because if they write regulation, you don't want regulation to be anti-you 6 months from now. And that's a very real danger. So I've taken quite a few in this room into the South African Reserve Bank to articulate what you're doing, right? How does it work? To let them ideate. Because sometimes we just expect these folks to understand things. It's not going to just happen. We're going to have to be proactive and engaged in that way, and we're doing it. But here's the big one. This morning, this was unexpected. I wasn't going to announce it, but I was given permission literally an hour ago, I pinged Harriman and I said, yay, I'm giving permission. So this is breaking news. We spoke about Bitcoin mining. We warned Eskom, or we told Eskom how cool it would be. Well, guess what? I'm announcing this company at the bottom called Bitmac. It's still stealth. Its website is not up. It's a company founded by myself, Karel de Jager, Rob Hertzhoff, and we've got a couple of other founders inside of it. And it's a Bitcoin mining company. But it's a Bitcoin mining company at scale. So this company right now is raising between 30 and 40 billion rand. And the announcement that I can make today is that Eskom will be making quite a significant announcement around Bitcoin mining. Okay, big. Yeah, finally. It's only taken us 2 years, Carl. It's taken us 2 years to get them over, but we finally got them. Okay, so we're very excited about it. I can't tell you exactly the details around it, but I can tell you it's hundreds of megawatts in the short term, and it's gigawatts in the medium term. It's very, very exciting. These are big Bitcoin mines. These are not play Bitcoin mines. This is billions of rands of infrastructure. What will the Bitcoin mines do? They're going to be, so let me tell you what's happening in our country today. We've moved as a country away from, and this is, for me, Bitcoin, coin go up, coin go down is boring. The wallet stuff, boring. The payment stuff, boring. It's like I'm expecting it, it's going to go up, we all know that, so I'm kind of bored by that. You know what I really love? It's proof of work. I think that's where Bitcoin is like beautiful. That's where Bitcoin is like the truth. That's where Bitcoin kind of displays its true attributes, is when you actually see a miner working and you see the energy and you see math and physics and truth, and like no one can issue more, and no one, it's like it's sovereign, it's immutable. You actually see it working. Like it's a beautiful thing. This week I bought one of these Nero Bitcoin miners. I forget the name. It's like a 1.2 terahash miner, and I set it up with my 9-year-old daughter at my house. We don't actually. It's owned by Africa Bitcoin Corporation, but I've set it up in my home with my little daughter. And to sit down with my 9-year-old daughter and actually set up a Bitcoin mine and explain to her how it works. And now, since we set it up, every morning when we drive to work, we've got ChatGPT on voice mode, and she's asking ChatGPT about, so what does 21 million coins mean? And what does this mean? And it's so cool to see a 9-year-old actually understanding. And she's going to class telling her teacher that everything's a lie. Like the world's a lie, everything's a lie. There's only one source of truth, and it's really cool to see that. Because the only source of truth we have in the entire world today, physically speaking, I mean, it's Bitcoin, right? It's energy, because it's tied to energy. It's math and physics tied to energy, and that's such a beautiful thing. So, yeah, so Eskom's will be announcing a big Bitcoin mining deployment, big power station level. And the reason they're doing it is because as a country, we've moved from having challenges around energy generation to energy orchestration. We have too much power in the country, way too much power. In fact, statistics, and I'm not sure, don't take me on the record, but my understanding is right now, the alternative renewable energies, that the investments that have gone in there, the amount of power in those projects is double the capacity that we need as a country. That's how much power we have. We have so much power on the grid, but the challenge that we have is we don't have the transmission lines, number one. Number two is distribution's also a challenge. So that's the problem with the grid. It's not about having power, it's about orchestrating power. And the way power moves on the grid, right? You need to have the ability to like curtail it. You need to have the ability to do instantaneous demand response. Now, the value proposition that we present, Bitmac, to Eskom is a demand response solution that can take 5 gigs of energy instantaneously, and they can switch us off instantaneously, switch us back on instantaneously, switch us back off instantaneously. Because that's how Bitcoin miners work. That ability is profound. Because they have huge challenges, right? When they hit certain low demand troughs, they need someone to take the power. There's spots in the country where we've got like a gig running through a town, and the town's only using 50 to 70 megawatts, but they don't know, they can't get the power beyond that. You know, so that congestion exists on the grid. The challenge that they have right now is, broadly speaking, when you and I put solar on our homes, on our businesses, etc., the demand drops during the day, but they can't stop those turbines, right? That impacts their equipment. So they need someone to grab that power, and that's what Bitcoin's going to do. And it's going to be a beautiful story. And guess what? Bitcoin is not going to just consume power. Bitcoin is going to stabilize our grid. Bitcoin is going to allow a monetary angle to finally personify so they can build out the necessary transmission lines and infrastructure. It's going to mature our grid. We're already seeing Bitcoin miners performing well in the United States. That's why the hash rate, I don't know if you've seen the hash rate over the last few days, has dipped 20 to 30%. That's a beautiful thing, because in the United States, All those people heating their homes, needing like warm air cons, etc., because of the cold snap over there, the Bitcoin miners just shut down, so the hash rate went down 20, 30%. Because we have that ability to do that. You can take us offline, and you can bring us right back online. You can throttle us in real time. Now, the beautiful thing about this is it matures the grid, it stabilizes the grid, but it also makes the grid ready for the hyperscalers. Hyperscalers, when they put in infrastructure, the big challenge that we have with hyperscalers, they throttle energy use. So when they're doing inference compute, right, the energy signature is horrible. It looks like that. Right? It's not stable. So Eskom doesn't like a hyperscaler attached to its grid. But when we put in these Bitcoin mines, you know what comes right behind us are the hyperscalers. Why? Because they can put their compute behind the Bitcoin mines. The Bitcoin mines give them a stable energy signature coming towards them, and they represent a stable energy signature towards the grid. So when they power down, we power up. When they power up, we power down. And that signature that Eskom sees in the grid is a stable energy signature, and that's what they want to see. So it's so symbiotic when you bring high-performance computing together with Bitcoin mining. And the nice thing about high-performance computing, guys, they pay a lot for power. Because in the world right now, we don't lack data anymore. We don't lack compute anymore. What do we lack? We lack electrons. Right? So the world's hungry for electrons. AI needs electrons. So what we can do now with Bitcoin is modernize our grid, stabilize our grid, and enable our grid to spawn these new generation of services and foreign direct investment, which is so exciting. So we're talking to the biggest Bitcoin miners in the world to partner with us. And through them, we're talking to the biggest hyperscalers in the world. And that's fun, right? And this is what Bitcoin can do for a country. This is what Bitcoin can do for a nation. It's not just freedom around payments and cross-border stuff and owning your wealth and all that. Those things are critical. Those things are important. But what it does from an infrastructure perspective is profound. And I'm very excited. So that's an announcement today, and we'll keep announcing. I could tell, I want to say so much more, but I don't think I should. Hey, I think I'll leave it there. But it's very, very exciting. In fact, next week we go to a major power station. We're going to see where we're going to deploy inside of it. And it's so exciting to see the Eskom engineers excited about something. And you know what? When we came along and told them about what we can do, they were like, bullshit. It's like, no way. What, you can just like take 500 megs of power? Do I just give it to you? Yeah. And then I switch you off? Yes. Like, they don't understand that. Right? I mean, a smelter needs, at minimum, I think 4 hours to 4 days of notice to shut down a smelter. So when they need the power, they call AMSA, they call Trans Alloys, they call all these companies, say, shut down, we need the power. Those guys, at best, is a 4-hour notice, right? But it's usually like 3 to 4 days, and then they get the power back. Now, they can get the power back in a nanosecond. That's extraordinary. And they can give us that power in a nanosecond. They can switch us on and off like that. That's extraordinary. So we're very excited. We'll be deploying PV solar plants with it. So in the day, we'll do that, and at night, we'll do like off-peak stuff. And if you want to talk more about it, Carl's here. So if you guys see him in and around, I may have to fly out later, but he's around and ask him stuff about it. It's really cool. And hopefully the next time we get up, we can actually have someone from Eskom and we can show you a deployment at the next Adopting Bitcoin conference, all right? But that's fun. So we've announced that. Next slide. Let's talk about the first Bitcoin treasury company in South Africa. Okay, now, this is very, very important because this is not just a Bitcoin treasury company. We took a private credit business. Now, what's a private credit business? A private credit business like Altvest was before. It still has the private credit business called ACOF, Altvest Credit Opportunities Fund. That issues loans to emerging businesses in South Africa, and now Pan-African. So what we do is we go to large capital allocators. We go to pension funds, etc. And we create a fund, and that fund gets deployed to SMEs who would never have been looked at by a bank. A VC will definitively not look at them, but they've got all the elements that our analysts believe will scale. Right. So we're helping, and what I love about the business at its core, it helps and it's skewed towards helping Black African female entrepreneurs. And it's quite extraordinary to see what these women are building. And all they need is for someone to understand how they work. Now, we've got someone on our board. His name's Gigi Alcock. Read these books. He wrote Carsonomics. He's written quite a few Carsonomics books. And he guides a lot of the thinking around engaging in this sector. Now, imagine when Warren and I sat down, what the beauty of the core was what Warren had built, right? I came along. I was chairman of this business, working with him and building it out. We've raised, Warren, what do we have under management right now? It's 150 million? 500 million. So we have so R500 million of private credit capital to deploy into SMEs. What's amazing about the company is its loan book. It's thousands of jobs. It's incurred already. It's 3 years old, JSE listed, and its default rate is 0.08%. That's extraordinary. That shows the work that the analysts do to truly verify the businesses that they fund, number one. And number two is it shows how investable our economy truly is when you take a look at the entrepreneurs that we have. The latent demand for people that want this money, Pan-African, is about $350 billion US. That's how big the total addressable market is. Now, could we raise capital? Let me give you the story. I'm jumping slides, but I think it's better for you to look at me than just look at slides. We'll get to the slides in a second. Now, the biggest challenge with a private credit business is when it raises its capital from pension funds, it's what they call its average cost of capital, or its cost of capital, is 12 to 15%. So it then puts a margin on that. So the loans that you see in South Africa today, one of the cheapest is around 18 to 20%. It's usually 20 to 30% if you want a loan. That's if you do it in the fiat way. But guess what? If you take Bitcoin and you build up a balance sheet of Bitcoin, you can do a loan to value that is very conservative. You do a 30% LTV on your Bitcoin, and you can get fiat out of Bitcoin below 5%. You take the 5%, you shove it into the private credit business. You have a mandate that says for every 2 that you put in, I put in another 8. Suddenly the 2 million that you get out of 3 Bitcoin becomes 10 million that you can deploy into an SME. Then it feeds back up into the Bitcoin from a profit perspective, and it builds the Bitcoin back up again. That's the model. That's why Seyfuddin Amus joined our business. We personified what he wrote in the Bitcoin standard and the fiat standard. We're bringing fiat to its knees by galvanizing our balance sheet with Bitcoin. We're the first Bitcoin treasury company in the world. That's a private credit-based Bitcoin treasury company. We're the first Bitcoin treasury company in the world to do what we're doing with Bitcoin. Michael Saylor takes Bitcoin and he attacks with digital credit. We take Bitcoin and we attack with private credit. That's the difference, right? In his market, he's got low yields, but lots of capital. In our market, we have high yields, right? But very little capital. So what we need to do is take the Bitcoin and translate that Bitcoin conservatively into impact through our private credit business and then feed it back. This is novel. It's incredibly impactful, and I can't wait for the scale that you'll see moving forward. So let's take a look at it, who we are. So we listed right now, South Africa JSE. We did the Namibia Stock Exchange, and the reason we did the Namibia Stock Exchange to prove that we could do dual listing, and our plan is to go, if you look further down, we're going to be in the UK, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Nigeria, Eswatini. So these are markets that are ready for us to dual list on their stock exchanges. Okay, and they have mandates, etc. USA, we did a presentation this week. In the USA, was it this week? We did a presentation on OTCQB, and the reception's been amazing. Warren and I are getting on a plane, I think, next week, and we're away for the whole of February, and we're literally just fundraising on the East Coast of the United States, meeting with large capital allocators. They've never seen anything like this, and the cool thing is we de-risk Africa for them. Because when they buy our equity, we convert the equity to Bitcoin. The Bitcoin goes into the private credit engine. They get exposure to all that demand without the Africa risk, which is really, really cool for them. And now our plan is to globally list. So we're in Frankfurt now. We're in the US now. We'll be in London soon, in the UK, and onwards we'll go. So what we're doing is Pan-Africa listings, Pan-international listings, combining the two from a liquidity perspective. So the substrate is slowly building up. We're very excited about it. So this is our balance sheet. Now, the two things that I spoke about already, take a look at it. That's our average loan rate. So if you lend from us, there's some of you in this room that we've lent to, right? There's emerging businesses, startups in this room that have done debt equity from us. And that's the lending rate over there. That number is important. The other number that's important is, where is it? Did it disappear? The number down there, 0.08%. That's our default rate. But take a look at how expensive it is, right? But if you take that and you bring Bitcoin along, then Bitcoin breaks the back of that, which is extraordinary. And you can go off and lend against that at less than 5%. And it changes the game completely. And that's our game, right? So massive SME funding, 350 billion pipeline. Banks don't serve our SMEs. Investors globally are looking for yield. That's why Michael Saylor's STRC is so popular. Why? Because there's yield starvation in developed markets. Like in Switzerland, yields are low, like real low, like they're below 3%. You go to Japan, the same. You go to the States, they're below 10%. We present yields in Africa between 18 and the low 20s easily, and you can still do those lendings at those rates. So big margins there. This is how it comes together. I like this slide, but I like the slide that comes afterwards. The team built this slide. It's pretty cool. The Bitcoin Treasury Company, the core operating business, and you see how synonymous they are. But this is the one. I'm going to end on this one. Take a look at that. It's kind of our iceberg. On the top is our Bitcoin Treasury business. This is how we'll do the traditional Bitcoin Treasury thing. We will sell equity in an accretive manner based upon our MNAV, right? And we'll take the proceeds from that and we'll build out our Bitcoin balance sheet. And when we build out our Bitcoin balance sheet, we will do a very simple thing. We will take that Bitcoin, we will do an LTV of 30%. So if Bitcoin drops by more, if Bitcoin went down 80%, we'll still be fine. The entire business doesn't care about the Bitcoin price. Where are we getting the money from? The liquidation rates on those loans is in the 80s. So we're safe. We're doing it very conservatively. We take that 30%, we convert that 30% to fiat, and we pump it into our private credit business. And we fund SMEs that are double securitized, and boom, that profits feed back up and again. And that's what you see happening. You've got the private credit business at the bottom. Now, what's important about this is the following. That's step one. And this is what very few people understand. Step one is taking Bitcoin and bringing fiat to its knees, step one. Step two is enabling those SMEs to do Bitcoin bonds with us. So we want to, hopefully sometime this year, issue out loans to SMEs that are like bit bonds, hybrid loans. So if you take 5 million rand from us, we'd like you to take the 1 million rand and buy Bitcoin and hold it for the term of the loan. And if you do that, we'll drop the interest rate a little bit on the loan because you're securitizing your loan. And we're enabling you to be our Bitcoin hodler because after time, we'll split the proceeds of the Bitcoin 50-50 with you. See, we're orange pilling SMEs. Also, what we want to incentivize those SMEs to do is accept Bitcoin in their businesses. That's part of our challenge. We want to work with Money Badger. We want to work with all these companies to come along and educate these SMEs around Bitcoin acceptance in their businesses and savings in Bitcoin. Right? And we want them to take their Bitcoin, and this is another product that we've built. We announced this product last week, or this week, or last week. It's a Bitcoin yield product. If you've got Bitcoin, you deposit your Bitcoin into our treasury, we'll give you 3 to 5% yield if you're willing for us to hold on to it for 3 to 5 years. So if you've got Bitcoin and you want your Bitcoin to grow outside of just money go up and hodling, we'll give you 3 to 5% on your Bitcoin, but you've got to keep it with us for 3 to 5 years. We'll give you 3 to 5%, and you keep it with us for 3 to 5 years. Okay, we've just announced that. So you Bitcoiners out there, if you want additional yield in your Bitcoin, please feel free to contact us. But the point here is, and I'll end with this, is this thing on the far right, is human yield. As much as we driving for Bitcoin yield, Bitcoin per share, MNAV and all of that, the key thing that we're driving is human yield. And what we've determined is 1 Bitcoin raised in our balance sheet equals 5 African jobs. And we'll keep tracking that. If you go to our analytics page, you'll actually see that it tracks human yield. Thanks so much for your time today, everyone.
Thank you very much.